I watched a man destroy his entire relationship in 11 seconds. He was at a dinner party with his girlfriend. Successful guy. Good job. Nice clothes. The kind of man you would expect to have everything under control. Then another man made a comment. A small joke at his expense. Nothing serious. The kind of thing that happens in social settings. But instead of staying calm, he reacted. His face changed. His voice rose. He defended himself with too many words. He explained why the joke was unfair. He looked at his girlfriend for support. She did not give it. In that moment, I saw something leave her eyes. Respect. Attraction. The feeling that she was with someone solid. It vanished like smoke. She did not break up with him that night, but the relationship was already over. It took 3 more months to officially end, but I knew watching that moment that it was finished. He lost her with 11 seconds of reaction. Now let me tell you about another man at that same party. Someone made a joke at his expense, too. A sharper one, actually. The kind designed to test him publicly. He did nothing. He did not defend himself. He did not explain. He did not look for support from anyone. He simply held the person's gaze for 2 seconds, let a small smile cross his face, and returned to his conversation. The room felt it. Something about his non-reaction commanded more respect than any comeback could have. The person who made the joke actually looked uncomfortable, like they had swung at air and lost balance. His girlfriend moved closer to him, not consciously. Her body simply drifted toward his. Because in that moment, she felt something that women feel in the presence of genuine masculine power. Safety. Certainty. The knowledge that this man cannot be shaken by small provocations. That is aura. And today, I am going to teach you how to build one so powerful that no woman dares challenge you. Welcome back to the Shadow Mind. Before we go deeper, I need to clarify something important. When I say no woman dares challenge you, I do not mean she fears you. I do not mean she becomes submissive or silent. I do not mean you dominate her into compliance. I mean something far more powerful. I mean she recognizes that you are not a man who can be manipulated through emotional reactions. She understands that tests and provocations will not work on you. She sees that your center of gravity lives inside you, not in her approval or disapproval. This does not create fear, it creates respect. And respect is the foundation of genuine attraction. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote 500 years ago that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Most men have this backwards. They try to appear strong while being weak inside. They perform confidence while feeling insecure. Women see through this instantly. The man with genuine aura has reversed the equation. He builds strength inside first. The appearance follows naturally because there is something real behind it. Robert Greene expanded on Machiavelli's insights in his study of power. He observed that those who make a show of their power actually reveal their insecurity. True power is felt, not displayed. It operates like gravity. You do not see gravity, but you feel its pull on everything around you. That is what we are building today. Invisible force, the kind that shapes how others behave around you without you saying a single word. I have broken this down into 5 elements. Each one builds on the previous. Skip one, and the whole structure weakens. Element 1 is Unshakable Center, the internal foundation that nothing can move. Element 2 is Controlled Stillness, the mastery of reaction that creates psychological power. Element 3 is Strategic Silence, the discipline of speech that amplifies every word you say. Element 4 is Emotional Immunity, the freedom from manipulation through feeling. Element 5 is Purposeful Distance, the art of proximity that maintains mystery and respect. Each element comes from direct observation of men who possess what most men lack, and each one is grounded in the teachings of thinkers who understood human psychology at its deepest level. Carl Jung wrote that who looks outside dreams, but who looks inside awakens. Most men spend their lives adjusting their external presentation. Better clothes, better body, better words. But they never do the internal work that creates genuine presence. The man with powerful aura has awakened. He has done the inner work. And that work radiates outward in ways that cannot be faked. I will share my own failures along this journey. The times I reacted when I should have remained still. The moments I spoke when silence would have served me better. The lessons I learned the hard way so you do not have to. This is not theory. This is the practical psychology of presence. Stay with me for the next 20 minutes. What you learn here will change how every woman responds to you. Not through tricks, through transformation. Let us begin. Element 1. Unshakable Center. Let me tell you about the weakest version of myself. I was 29 years old, dating a woman I thought I loved. But looking back, I realize I was not in love with her. I was in love with her approval. Every day I monitored her mood like a weather forecast. If she was happy, I was happy. If she was distant, I panicked. If she gave me attention, I felt valuable. If she withdrew it, I felt worthless. My entire sense of self orbited around her opinion of me, and she felt it. Women always feel it. She began testing me, small comments designed to see how I would react, slight criticisms delivered casually, moments of coldness to measure my response. Every time, I failed. I explained myself. I sought reassurance. I adjusted my behavior to win back her warmth. Each failure made her respect me less, and each loss of respect made her test me more. It was a spiral that ended exactly where such spirals always end, with her leaving for a man who did not need her validation to feel whole. That experience broke me, but it also taught me the most important lesson of my life. Your center must live inside you. The moment you place it in someone else's hands, you have already lost. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this 2,000 years ago. He said you have power over your mind, not outside events. When you realize this, you find strength. Most men never realize this. They give their power away freely, then wonder why they feel powerless. An unshakable center means your sense of worth does not fluctuate based on external feedback. When she praises you, you appreciate it, but do not inflate. When she criticizes you, you consider it, but do not collapse. When she withdraws attention, you remain the same man you were when she gave it freely. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is a mask worn by the insecure. This is groundedness, the calm knowledge of who you are that does not require external confirmation. Sigmund Freud studied the ego extensively. He understood that most people build their identity on unstable foundations. They need constant validation to feel real. Remove the validation, and their sense of self crumbles. The man with an unshakable center has built his identity on bedrock, his values, his purpose, his relationship with himself. These do not change based on someone else's mood. How do you build this center? First, you must identify where you currently seek validation. Be brutally honest. Do you check your phone hoping for her message? Do you change your opinions to match hers? Do you feel anxious when she seems distant? These are symptoms of a center placed outside yourself. Second, you must develop a relationship with solitude. Spend time alone without distraction. No phone, no entertainment, just you and your thoughts. This is uncomfortable at first, Because you are meeting yourself without the buffer of external stimulation. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. When he is alone, he discovers what he truly thinks, what he truly values, what he truly wants. Most men never make this discovery because they fear the silence. Third, you must build something that belongs only to you. A skill, a project, a physical practice. Something that creates internal satisfaction independent of any relationship. When you have this, you carry worth that no one can give or take. The man at the dinner party who remained calm when tested had an unshakable center. He did not need the room's approval. He did not need his girlfriend's defense. His worth was already established inside himself. That is element 1. Without it, nothing else we discuss will work. Element 2. Controlled stillness. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that the man who cannot command himself should obey. This sounds harsh, but it contains profound truth. If you cannot control your own reactions, you are at the mercy of anyone who knows how to provoke you. Controlled stillness is the visible manifestation of internal mastery. It is what others see when your unshakable center meets external pressure. Let me give you a specific example. I was coaching a man named Daniel, 42 years old. Recently divorced, he came to me because he kept failing in new relationships. Women would be interested initially, then lose attraction within weeks. When I observed him interact with a woman he was dating, I saw the problem immediately. He reacted to everything. When she made a playful tease, his face showed hurt before he could mask it. When she mentioned another man casually, his body tensed visibly. When she took time to respond to a message, he sent follow-ups that revealed his anxiety. His reactions were faster than his thinking. His emotions leaked through his body before his mind could intervene. Women read this like a book. Every fast reaction told her that he could be moved easily, that he was not stable, that his emotions were controlled by her behavior rather than by himself. I gave Daniel one instruction. Before responding to anything, take one full breath, not a quick breath. A slow, complete inhale and exhale. This simple practice created a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, Daniel could choose his reaction rather than being hijacked by automatic emotion. Within 2 weeks, the woman he was dating commented that something about him had changed. She could not identify what. She just said he seemed more solid, more present, more masculine. He had not changed his words. He had not learned new techniques. He had simply introduced stillness between event and reaction. Epictetus taught that it is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Between every event and your response lies a space. Most men have no access to that space. They react automatically, predictably, controllably. The man with controlled stillness lives in that space. He sees the event. He feels the initial impulse, but he does not act on impulse. He chooses. Robert Greene identified this as one of the fundamental laws of power. He wrote that when you show your hand, you lose your advantage. Every automatic reaction shows your hand. It reveals what moves you, what threatens you, what controls you. But when you remain still, you reveal nothing. The other person cannot read you. They cannot predict you. They cannot control you. This is deeply attractive to women at a biological level. Evolution programmed them to seek men who remain stable under pressure. A man who reacts to every small provocation signals that he will crumble when real challenges arrive. A man who remains still signals that he can weather any storm. How do you develop controlled stillness? First, practice the breath gap. Before any response, take one complete breath. This is simple but transformative. It interrupts the automatic reaction pattern and creates space for choice. Second, slow your physical movements. Rushed movement signals anxiety. When you feel pressure to act quickly, deliberately move slower. Pick up your drink slowly. Turn your head slowly. Respond slowly. This external slowness creates internal calm. Third, practice holding discomfort without reacting. When she says something provocative, feel the discomfort fully. Do not push it away. Do not act on it. Just hold it while remaining physically still. This builds tolerance that most men never develop. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. But I would add that the powerful man does slowly what the weak man does frantically. Speed is the enemy of presence. Stillness is its foundation. The man at the dinner party did not react because he had trained this capacity. His stillness was not performance. It was practice made permanent. And that stillness spoke louder than any words could have. Element 3. Strategic silence. I learned this lesson in the most painful way possible. Years ago, I was in a relationship with a woman who knew exactly how to provoke me. She would make small comments, subtle jabs, things that seemed innocent on the surface but carried sharp edges underneath. And every single time, I took the bait. I defended myself. I explained my position. I argued my case with logic and evidence. I used many words to prove that her criticism was unfair. I won every argument. And I lost her completely. Because here is what I did not understand. Every word I spoke in my own defense lowered her respect for me. Not because I was wrong, but because I revealed that her words had power over me, that I needed to correct her perception, that her opinion mattered so much I would fight to change it. The more I talked, the weaker I became in her eyes. Thomas Hobbes wrote that words are the money of fools. He understood that most speech is worthless currency. It buys nothing. It costs everything. The man who speaks constantly pays a price he never sees until the account is empty. Strategic silence is the opposite of nervous speech. It is the deliberate choice to withhold words when speaking would weaken your position. Let me give you a specific scenario. She criticizes something you did. Maybe she says you were inconsiderate. Maybe she questions a decision you made. Maybe she compares you unfavorably to someone else. The weak man responds immediately. He defends. He explains. He justifies. Every word digs his grave deeper. The powerful man pauses. He looks at her calmly. He lets the silence stretch until it becomes uncomfortable. Then he responds with minimal words, or none at all. Perhaps he says simply, "I hear you." Perhaps he says nothing, and returns to what he was doing. Perhaps he asks one quiet question. Is there something else beneath this? Each response maintains power because it refuses to engage in the frame she has set. She expected defense. She received stillness. She expected reaction. She received observation. Robert Greene wrote extensively about the power of saying less than necessary. He observed that the more you say, the more common you appear, and the less in control. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you speak, the more likely you are to say something foolish. I have watched this principle transform men. One client named Marcus had a habit of over-explaining everything. When his girlfriend questioned him, he would launch into detailed justifications that went on for minutes. He thought he was being clear and logical. He was actually hemorrhaging power with every sentence. I gave him a simple rule. Respond in fewer words than she used. If she speaks 30 words, respond in 15 or less. If she speaks 10 words, respond in 5 or less. The change was immediate. She began treating him differently. She chose her own words more carefully. She stopped making casual criticisms because they no longer produced the reaction she expected. His silence had trained her behavior without him saying a single corrective word. Machiavelli understood that men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand. They see appearances, but do not experience substance. When you speak little, people see mystery. When you speak much, they see everything and value nothing. Strategic silence is not about withholding communication. It is about making every word count. It is about understanding that empty space has weight, that pauses create tension, that what you do not say often matters more than what you do. Here is how you practice. First, count your words in important conversations. Literally, count them. Most men will be shocked at how much unnecessary speech they produce. Awareness is the first step toward change. Second, practice the 3-second rule. Before responding to anything significant, count 3 full seconds of silence. This feels extremely long at first, but it creates space for power that rushed responses never allow. Third, end conversations before they feel finished. Leave while there is still more to say. This creates a feeling of incompleteness that draws attention toward you rather than away. Carl Jung wrote that thinking is difficult, which is why most people judge. I would add that silence is difficult, which is why most people talk. The rare man who masters silence becomes magnetic precisely because of his rarity. Element 4. Emotional immunity. Let me be very clear about what this means and what it does not mean. Emotional immunity is not the absence of emotion. It is not coldness. It is not pretending you feel nothing when you feel something. That is suppression, and suppression always leaks out eventually in destructive ways. Emotional immunity is freedom from being controlled through emotion. There is a massive difference. The emotionally immune man feels everything: anger, hurt, desire, fear. He experiences the full range of human emotion, but he is not controlled by these feelings. They do not dictate his actions. They do not hijack his decisions. They inform him without commanding him. Sigmund Freud identified that most human behavior is driven by unconscious emotional forces. People think they are making rational choices, but they are actually being pushed by feelings they do not understand or even recognize. The emotionally immune man has made the unconscious conscious. He knows what he feels. He knows why he feels it. And he chooses what to do with that information rather than being automatically driven by it. This is deeply attractive to women for a specific reason. Women test men emotionally, not because they are cruel, because they need to know what they are dealing with. They need to discover whether this man can handle pressure, whether he will remain stable when emotions run high, whether he is safe to surrender to. These tests often come as provocations designed to trigger reaction. A comment about an ex, a complaint delivered at the wrong moment, a withdrawal of affection without explanation, a question designed to create jealousy. The man without emotional immunity fails these tests. He reacts. He shows that her emotional weapons work. He demonstrates that she can move him simply by pushing the right buttons. The man with emotional immunity passes these tests. He feels the provocation, but does not take the bait. He recognizes the test for what it is. He remains centered while acknowledging the feeling without being commanded by it. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He wrote in his private journals about dealing with difficult people. He said that when another person wrongs you, ask yourself what made them do it. When you understand their weakness, you can feel compassion rather than rage. And compassion allows clear thought, while rage blinds you. This is emotional immunity in practice, not suppression, understanding. Let me tell you about a transformation I witnessed. A man named Thomas came to me after his third failed relationship. Each one ended the same way. The woman would push emotionally, he would react with anger or desperation, and the relationship would spiral downward. He had a pattern. When he felt threatened emotionally, he became either aggressive or pleading. Two sides of the same coin. Both were reactions driven by fear. Both pushed women away. I taught Thomas a simple framework. When you feel a strong emotion rising, name it silently to yourself. Not out loud, just internal acknowledgement. This is anger. This is fear. This is jealousy. The act of naming creates distance. You are no longer the emotion. You are the observer of the emotion. That small shift changes everything. Within months, Thomas reported that conflicts with women had transformed completely. He still felt triggered sometimes, but instead of reacting, he would pause, name the feeling, and choose his response deliberately. Women noticed. They described him as more grounded, more mature, more masculine. What they were actually sensing was emotional immunity, the freedom from being controlled through feeling. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that we forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. Emotional reactivity is one of the primary ways we forfeit ourselves. We abandon our center to match someone else's energy. We sacrifice our stability to respond to their chaos. The emotionally immune man does not forfeit himself. He remains whole regardless of what emotional pressure is applied. And that wholeness is what women find irresistible. Because ultimately, she is looking for a rock, not a stone that crumbles under pressure, not a wall that attacks when threatened. A rock, solid, unmoved, present, safe. Emotional immunity makes you that rock. Element 5. Purposeful distance. This element confuses more men than any other. They hear distance and think coldness. They hear space and think rejection. They hear absence and think abandonment. None of these are what I mean. Purposeful distance is the strategic management of proximity that maintains attraction over time. It is understanding that too much availability kills desire, that constant presence breeds contempt, that mystery requires space to survive. Let me tell you a story that taught me this lesson permanently. I once dated a woman I was completely captivated by. Beautiful, intelligent, everything I thought I wanted. And because I wanted her so much, I made myself completely available. When she called, I answered immediately. When she wanted to see me, I rearranged my schedule. When she texted, I replied within minutes. I thought this showed her how much I cared. It showed her how little I valued myself. Within 2 months, her interest faded. She became distant. She started taking longer to respond. She canceled plans more often. The relationship ended not with a fight, but with a slow evaporation of her desire. I was confused. I had given her everything. Why did she leave? Robert Greene answered this question in his study of seduction. He wrote that absence diminishes small passions but inflames great ones. What I experienced was not great passion, it was convenience. I had made myself so available that there was nothing left to desire. Desire requires gap. It requires reaching. It requires the space between wanting and having. When you eliminate that space through constant presence, you eliminate the very mechanism that creates attraction. Machiavelli understood this principle in politics. He wrote that princes must be careful about being too familiar with their subjects. Familiarity breeds contempt. The leader who is always present becomes ordinary. The leader who appears strategically becomes extraordinary. The same principle applies to attraction. The man who is always available signals that he has nothing else important in his life. The man who is strategically unavailable signals that his time has value, that his attention is a prize, not a given, that being with him is an opportunity, not a guarantee. This does not mean playing games. Playing hard to get is manipulation. Purposeful distance is truth. You should actually have important things in your life beyond her. Work that matters. Goals that demand attention. Relationships that require investment. When you have these things, distance becomes natural because your life is genuinely full. Let me give you a practical example. A client named Robert had the opposite problem from most men. He was successful, attractive, and had genuine presence, but he kept losing women after a few months because he would become too focused on the relationship. His work would suffer, his friendships would fade, his hobbies would disappear, all his energy would flow toward her. And paradoxically, this intensity would suffocate the very connection he was trying to build. I gave Robert a simple structure. No matter how much he liked a woman, he would maintain what I call the 3 pillars of distance. First, he would never see her more than 3 times per week in the early months. This created space for anticipation and independent life. Second, he would never respond to non-urgent messages within 1 hour. Not as a game, as genuine proof that he had other things demanding his attention. Third, he would maintain at least 1 significant weekly commitment that had nothing to do with her. A sports league, a creative project, a friend group, something that was his alone. These 3 practices transformed his relationships. Women described feeling more attracted over time rather than less. They wondered about him when he was away. They valued his presence because it was not guaranteed. Sigmund Freud identified that human beings desire what they cannot fully possess. The moment something becomes completely available, the desire begins to fade. We are wired to want what requires effort to obtain. Purposeful distance respects this psychological reality. It does not manipulate it. It simply refuses to violate it through excessive availability. Carl Jung wrote about the importance of maintaining individual identity within relationships. He warned that fusion, the complete merging of 2 people into one unit, destroys both the individuals and the relationship. Healthy connection requires 2 complete people maintaining their separateness while choosing to share. Purposeful distance maintains that separateness. It says, I am with you because I choose to be, not because I have nothing else. That choice, freely made from a position of fullness rather than emptiness, is what creates lasting attraction. Now, let me show you how these 5 elements work together. Individually, each element has power, but combined, they create something greater than their sum. They create an aura so complete that women respond to it automatically, without understanding why. Let me walk you through a scenario to demonstrate the integration. You are at a social gathering. A woman you have been seeing for several weeks makes a comment in front of others. Something with an edge to it. A subtle test disguised as a joke. The man without aura reacts immediately. He defends himself. His face shows hurt. His body tenses. He uses many words to explain why her comment was unfair. Everyone in the room feels his weakness. Most importantly, she feels it. But you have developed the 5 elements. Your unshakable center means her comment does not move your sense of self. You know who you are. Her opinion, even a critical one, does not change that internal reality. There is no wound to defend because your worth is not located in her approval. Your controlled stillness means you do not react automatically. You feel the impulse to respond. You notice it rise in your body. But you do not act on that impulse. You take 1 slow breath. You let the moment stretch. Your strategic silence means you do not fill the uncomfortable space with words. You hold her gaze calmly. You let the silence do the work that rushed speech would undo. Perhaps you offer a small smile. Perhaps you say nothing at all. Your emotional immunity means you experience the feeling without being controlled by it. You notice irritation. You acknowledge it internally, but you do not let it dictate your response. You remain the observer of your emotion rather than its puppet. Your purposeful distance means you have a full life beyond this moment. Your sense of self is not dependent on this interaction going well. You have places to be, things to do, people who value you. This gives your stillness the foundation of genuine security rather than performance. When you respond, if you respond at all, it comes from choice rather than reaction. Perhaps you simply say, "Interesting," and return to your previous conversation. Perhaps you look at her with calm amusement and change the subject. Perhaps you say nothing and let your stillness be the only response necessary. The room feels something. They cannot name it, but they sense that you are different from other men, that you cannot be shaken by small provocations, that you operate from a center they do not possess. And she feels it most of all. Her test failed. Not because you fought against it, because it simply did not land. Her emotional weapon had no target. You were not where she expected you to be. This is deeply attractive at a level beyond conscious thought. Her biology responds to the presence of a man who cannot be easily moved. Her instincts recognize safety in your stability. Her desire increases because you demonstrated something rare. Nietzsche wrote that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. The man with powerful aura has won this struggle. He is not overwhelmed by social pressure. He is not controlled by emotional manipulation. He remains individual in a world that demands conformity. That individuality is magnetic, because it is what everyone secretly wants, but few have the courage to develop. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold. But I would add that fortune also favors the still. The man who remains unmoved while chaos swirls around him creates his own fortune. He becomes the fixed point that others orient themselves around. That is what these 5 elements create when combined. Not a technique, not a performance, an identity so solid that it shapes how others behave simply by existing. Now, let me show you exactly how to build this aura. I will not pretend this is easy. It took me years of failure before I understood these principles, more years to embody them. The man I am today bears little resemblance to the reactive, approval-seeking version I described earlier. But you do not need years. You need deliberate practice and honest self-assessment. Here is your path forward. Week 1. Focus only on Unshakable Center. Each morning, spend 10 minutes in complete silence. No phone, no music, no distraction, just you and your thoughts. Notice what arises. Notice where your mind goes when it has nothing to grasp. During this week, identify 3 moments each day when you sought external validation. Maybe you checked to see if she responded to your message. Maybe you adjusted your opinion to match someone else's. Maybe you felt anxious when someone seemed displeased with you. Do not judge these moments. Just notice them. Awareness precedes change. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal for exactly this purpose. He wrote not for others, but for himself, to notice his patterns, to catch his weaknesses, to hold himself accountable to the man he wanted to become. Start your own journal. Write 3 validation-seeking moments each night. Within 1 week, you will see patterns you never noticed before. Week 2. Add controlled stillness. Continue your morning silence practice, but now add the breath gap to every significant interaction. Before responding to anything important, take 1 complete breath. Feel your lungs fill. Feel them empty. Then respond. This will feel awkward at first. You will want to rush. You will feel social pressure to reply quickly. Resist this pressure. The discomfort is the training. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things but by our opinions about things. The breath gap creates space to examine your opinions before acting on them. Most men never access this space. They live in pure reaction. You are building something different. Week 3. Add strategic silence. Now begin counting your words. In important conversations, especially with women, notice how much you speak versus how much you listen. Set a specific target. Speak 20% less than you normally would. This means letting silences exist. This means not filling every gap. This means trusting that your presence communicates more than your words. Robert Greene wrote that powerful people impress by saying less. This week, you will experience this directly. Notice how people respond differently when you speak less. Notice how your words carry more weight when they are fewer. Week 4. Add emotional immunity. This week, practice naming your emotions as they arise. When you feel anger, say internally, "This is anger." When you feel fear, acknowledge, "This is fear." When you feel jealousy, recognize, "This is jealousy." The naming creates distance. You become the observer rather than the emotion itself. This small shift transforms your relationship with feeling. Carl Jung called this process making the unconscious conscious. What you cannot see controls you. What you can see becomes a choice. This week, you are training yourself to see. Week 5. Add purposeful distance. Examine your availability patterns. How quickly do you respond to messages? How easily do you rearrange your schedule? How much of your life revolves around her approval? Implement the 3 practices I described earlier. Limit early contact frequency. Delay non-urgent responses. Maintain commitments that exist independent of her. This is not game playing. This is building a life worth living regardless of any single relationship. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. This week, reclaim the parts of yourself that exist in solitude. Before we close, I must give you essential warnings. First warning: do not perform these elements. Embody them. There is a vast difference between acting unshakable and being unshakable, between performing silence and choosing silence, between pretending emotional immunity and genuinely developing it. Women detect performance instantly. Their survival mechanisms are tuned to identify false advertising in men. A man who pretends strength is more repulsive than a man who admits weakness honestly. Machiavelli himself warned about this. He wrote that a prince must appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and honest. But he also wrote that appearing without being creates fragility. When the appearance is tested and nothing real exists beneath it, the collapse is total. Build the real thing. It takes longer. It costs more. But it cannot be exposed because there is nothing false to expose. Second warning: do not weaponize these elements against women. The purpose of powerful aura is not domination. It is not control. It is not winning some imaginary war between the sexes. The purpose is becoming a man worthy of genuine respect, a man who does not need manipulation because his reality is attractive, a man who creates safety rather than fear, a man who leads through gravity rather than force. Thomas Hobbes wrote about the war of all against all. He described a world without trust, where every person must defend against every other. That is not the world we are building. We are building men who can be trusted. Men whose strength creates peace rather than conflict. Men whose aura invites rather than intimidates. If you use these principles to manipulate, control, or harm, you have missed the point entirely. And eventually, the manipulation will be exposed. It always is. Third warning: Do not expect instant transformation. I have given you a 5-week introduction, but 5 weeks is just the beginning. True aura is built over years of consistent practice, years of catching yourself in old patterns, years of choosing differently until the choice becomes automatic. Jordan Peterson often speaks about the importance of incremental improvement. He says that if you improve 1% per day, within a year you are 37 times better. This is the mindset required. You will fail. You will react when you should be still. You will speak when you should be silent. You will seek validation when you should be centered. These failures are not defeat. They are data. Each one shows you where more work is needed. Each one is an opportunity to choose differently next time. Nietzsche wrote about the eternal return. The idea that you might live your life over and over exactly as it is. He used this as a test. Does your life deserve eternal repetition? Apply this test to your daily choices. Does this reaction deserve repetition? Does this speech deserve repetition? Does this emotional collapse deserve repetition? When the answer is no, you know where to focus your practice. Let me leave you with a final truth. The aura we have discussed today is not about power over women. It is about power over yourself. When you build an unshakable center, you free yourself from the tyranny of external approval. When you develop controlled stillness, you free yourself from the prison of automatic reaction. When you master strategic silence, you free yourself from the compulsion to fill every space with words. When you cultivate emotional immunity, you free yourself from manipulation through feeling. When you maintain purposeful distance, you free yourself from the suffocation of excessive attachment. Each element is a form of liberation. Liberation from patterns that have controlled you without your awareness. Liberation from weakness you did not choose, but inherited from culture, conditioning, and fear. Plato wrote about the cave. Prisoners chained since birth, watching shadows on a wall, believing the shadows were reality. One prisoner breaks free, sees the sun, and understands that everything he believed was illusion. Most men live in the cave. They believe their reactions are who they are. They believe their need for approval is natural. They believe their emotional volatility is personality. You are breaking free. You are seeing that these patterns are chains, not identity. You are discovering that a different way of being is possible. And when you return to the cave, as Plato's freed prisoner did, others will see something different in you. They will not understand what changed. They will simply feel that you carry something they lack. That something is aura, the invisible force that shapes how others respond before you speak a word. Machiavelli wrote 500 years ago that fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, you must be bold. But I would add that boldness alone is not enough. Boldness without groundedness is recklessness. Boldness without stillness is noise. Boldness without silence is weakness disguised. True mastery comes from the integration we discussed today. The combination of internal strength and external calm. The fusion of confidence and restraint. The balance of presence and mystery. Build this aura not to control women. Build it to become the man you were meant to be. The man who does not chase because he does not need to. The man who does not react because nothing can move him. The man who does not perform because his reality is enough. That man walks through life differently. Relationships come to him rather than requiring pursuit. Respect arrives without demand. Women feel safe in his presence and attracted to his depth. This is not manipulation. This is transformation. And transformation is always available to those willing to do the work. The shadow mind exists for men committed to this work. Every video here is designed to take you deeper into understanding yourself and the forces that shape human connection. If this video has opened something in you, subscribe. Join a community of men building something real within themselves. Leave a comment below. Tell me which element you need to develop most. Your honesty might help another man begin his own transformation. And remember this truth that Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. Stop perfecting appearances. Start building reality. Because the aura that cannot be challenged is the one that has nothing false to expose. Build that aura. Become that man. I will see you in the next video.